One thing I see happen very often, especially in history books, is they'll deny God, but then they'll still attribute something to God, and they do this by renaming God. Um, so a good example of this would be I was reading a book, and it was talking about evolution. Um, and it's weird when you are reading a history book and it's talking about um, evolution, because that's not really history, that's more of science. You know what I mean? Every history book wants to start at the beginning. You can't start at the beginning when you're talking about history, because we might be able to tell things in part or have a pretty good idea, but ultimately we have no records and we weren't there. So you really can't say, "Oh, let's start with history at the beginning." That's just stupid. As far as that's concerned, we don't even know where intelligent life historically began, and that doesn't matter whether you're religious or non-religious. We still don't know. Um, for instance, if you believe that Adam was the first person, um, that brings up a lot of questions for evolution. There's a lot of people who have a lot of different theories, like, hey, was he actually Homo sapien, or was he a progenitor to that? I don't know. And then the question becomes, well, if he was, um, when did he live? So you have that whole issue. But so this history book that was talking about evolution, even though it's not evolution, um, it it was kind of funny because um, it went to such great lengths to talk about the way that the Bible's a lie, and that God's not real, and all these things. And that's another thing. History is not meant to decide commentary on religion, whether or not God is real. These are maybe philosophy, maybe theology, maybe science in part, but history really isn't meant to do that. History is more meant to um, uncover what happened. And I know a lot of um, historians nowadays have gotten real popular for adding their own little creative flair, but we're not really meant to make something up. If we don't know, we should just, hey, we don't know. We're not meant to really start going on these long tangents about on really fractional data. We're not meant to go back and look thousands of years back and say, this is for sure what happened because I know this little bit. That means I can say with such certainty all these other things. That's not history, that's speculation. Wild speculation. Yes, it might be true. Who knows? But that doesn't give us the right to approach history with such a flippant, disrespectful attitude. History is a very important part of life, and it's something that we would do well to learn how to sift it correctly. Um, but with that being said, I'll go back to my main topic. She went through this long process of, oh, the Bible's a lie and all this stuff, and God's not really real. And then when she was talking about evolution, she described it as being a self-sufficient system, okay, that had knowledge of what was necessary and what would be necessary in the future for the animals to evolve into. Basically, they evolved before there was a need for them to evolve. So they knew what was coming somehow. So it had this foreknowledge, okay, and then how everything just kind of ordered itself, and how we got DNA and all this different stuff, a language in our bodies that didn't exist before. And remember, she's saying that there was no God, and this force or this whatever was also wise enough to know what was needed in all these different things. And so she talked about Mother Nature was one way she said it. Um, Another thing she said was nature, just plain simple nature, Mother Earth, or nature, and she kept calling it that. But she referred to it as being a guiding force that had foreknowledge, that was able to order perfectly. So basically, what she's done is she's gone to such great lengths to talk about how God doesn't really exist, and then she said, "Oh, by the way, God does exist, and His name is actually Mother Earth." Yes, that is interesting. That you know it was able to just completely align itself, invent itself from nothing, and all these different things. Great, but now what we've gone into is wild speculation. See, the thing is you can't go and affirm all the specifics of evolution, like for instance, that it came out of nothing, that it ordered itself, and that it evolved into what it needed before it even knew that it needed it. Or how about the way that DNA would have had to exist before it could exist? So there's all these different aspects here that are really not understood. I mean, look at the DNA sequencing itself. The grand majority of DNA we don't really understand, and so there's a lot of people who say this, well, it's probably just trash data left over from evolution. Probably? Like, that's a lot of information to just completely discredit. And not to mention that's very unscientific. Here's a question that we don't have the answer to, let's ignore and hope that it goes away. That's not science. Like, surely we can do better than that. And so I guess what I'm getting at here is two things. First off, historians would do well to not state with such bold fact when they really don't know. And then the second thing, it would do well when you go to such great lengths to disprove God that you don't rename him and then say that he does exist. It's just I guess, a little lesson there. I don't know how else to say that. When I don't even know like what else to say to that. Like, oh, God doesn't exist and the Bible's wrong, and Mother Nature was just so wise when she did this and ordered this and everything. It's like, so you've just said that there is a God, you just given it a different name and hoped that would make it all okay. Evolution just happened to work out, and when it did, it ordered itself, and it's like, what? Maybe a better way to talk about this, if you don't believe in God, maybe a better way to talk about it would be just simply to say, somehow this happened. We don't know exactly what caused it to happen or why it happened, but this is what happened, and this is how it happened. Because really, that's the problem with a lot of this. I've talked about the limits of history, but there's a big limit in science too. Science can tell us what's going on. Okay, right? It observes repeatable phenomena. That means we can't observe everything. Science can't give an idea about everything, just those things that are repeatable. So it really doesn't have much to say about anything paranormal or metaphysical, that kind of stuff. Or, freak things that can't always give us an answer. Sometimes it can give us an answer. And it would just be kind of well if we kind of considered science's definite limitations. So it can tell us, okay, this is what's happening, and this is, what's going on when that happens. Like, let's look at lightning. This is what causes lightning, and this is what's happening. Well, why that? Why is the order of the world as it is? So, I mean, there's just a lot of questions that science isn't really able to look at. And I guess the thing we really have to watch out for, to summarize all these ideas, is our own arrogance. I think we would do well, whether you're religious or irreligious, I think we would do well to recognize our arrogance, maybe to not be over assertive about things, and maybe if you're trying to disprove God, you're going to have to probably go ahead and throw evolution out the door, because the only way evolution makes sense is if there is a God. And probably go ahead and stop saying things that you don't know for fact. And you're probably also going to have to ignore the entire world and the order and beauty of it and just pretend like it's complete sheer chaos all the time without any kind of... And that kind of is a really big problem, especially because when you're looking at evolution, you basically have the problem of which was first, the chicken or the egg. Did these things have necessity, so they evolved to accommodate, or did they just happen to evolve before the need was necessary? And both of those have a heck of a lot of problems to solve and about them. But I guess that's really all I had to say about that. It just makes me laugh when people go to such great lengths to do things that they have no idea what they're talking about. History delving over into another realm of study. or historians that are so hell-bent on denying God, actually affirming him and just calling him something else. That to me just really blows me away. One of the lines she said, it wasn't like we all thought. It wasn't where, how did she say it? Where the earth was made for us. The earth spawned multiple, what did she say? Multiple intelligent life at the same time. And the way she was wording it is like, you've just said God did it, but you're just saying it's not that God, and I'm not condoning God, because I said not the Christian God, but Mother Nature was able to. See what I mean? So you're talking about a knowledgeable force that has power. In the same breath, and then you're saying no, it's different because I said that it's not God. So the fact that I'm saying that it is a powerful divine being is different somehow because I already said that it's not the Judeo-Christian God. What? Anyways.